Hey guys, and welcome to another super exciting episode of Untier Talk. You can tell how excited I am by the monotone of my voice. And Hijad's here too, but no one really cares.
What's up, dudes? How are you
Oh,
doing?
no, and are we talking with inflection now? Okay, sounds good. So it's been another week of PU. We're just gonna go over exhibition games in week 5, as we do. Um, Still chronological, I guess. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah. Okay.
yep.
So first one would have been Shane Ghoul versus Rexus. Um, and then they both bought like the exact same team, pretty much. So that was fun. Um, is Rexus on Sam I Am's team? Because that looks like, oh no, Sam I Am. Yeah, Sam I Am brought like Scyther, Alola slash Lantern offense last week or something. I think.
I think this is a Tasker style team, a Tasker team, not Tasker style, Tasker team.
Yeah, it could be Tasker too. It just like really reminds me of a Sam I Am team.
Yeah,
The cool thing here was actually seeing Jinx be like pretty good because it actually had Focus Blast like a good Jinx should, so it wasn't just getting walled by Alola Slash. And then overall, Shane Gould just played pretty good, and Rexus had bad Lilligant checks. Like
yep.
he had
Not much
a
needed to.
he had an Alola Slash and a Scyther, but it was a Z Hyper Beam plus HP Fire, which is like, oops.
Yeah. Z Hyper Beam and HP Fire Lilligant is a good set. I do think it's like really viable as like a Lilligant set. Just remove Sleep Powder because you essentially eliminate half your checks going either way. So and most people go and check one or the other. So if you have both and you manage to get a free setup opportunity, that's the only like trade off there. It's like harder to set up Lilligant without Sleep Powder. But
Yeah, exactly.
having both means that once it's set up, it's going to do more damage. And it showed in this game that Lilligant just did bits. Um, I like how Shankle's team looked. It's really, really heavy hyper offense, and I don't like how Rex's team looked because it looks like it loses to Stealth Rock plus Rapid Spin Blocker.
Yeah, I don't love only Alola Slash as the removal for a team like that because it does seem a little more reliant on Scyther doing damage because the rest of the team is kind of weak. Like I think when Sam brought Scyther with just Alola Slash removal, Scyther didn't really like removal wasn't as critical as it looks like for Rexus's team, and yeah, his team's also slow. So
I'm going to go on a limb, and I'm going to say that the Mesprit is. Well, did we end up finding out what the Mesprit set was?
it looked
Or
just
was it
Scarf. It was just Scarf, I think. Yeah.
Oh yeah, then the team's weakest shit to Gerda as well, isn't it? Like big with Scyther with that weakness. Scyther is not going to be.
Yeah.
Once
Well,
Scyther
we don't
taps,
know
it's
if it
quite
was.
dependent.
We don't know if it wasn't Roost Scyther, but it didn't look like Roost Scyther. And if it's not, then yeah, Girder just fucks it. Yeah, just a weird team all around, and unfortunately, like didn't have the matchup to where that couldn't be exploited. Like Shangle had all the tools he needed to exploit it, and he just did it pretty textbook and
Yeah.
cleared him out with Lilligant
Rex
pretty
played
easy.
well at the start of the game, with the U-turns and the bolt switching and the
Yeah, he played
bolt
fine.
switching
There just
Yeah,
wasn't a
but,
ton.
yeah, he just didn't have the resources, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Next game.
Yeah, sure. So we got Robert Alphonse versus Ima. Ima opting to bring like some fat like Kuno balance, and Robert Alphonse brings some like weird. It starts out offense, and then it gets like Drampa Quagsire, and it's just a very odd like I guess Robert Alphonse looking team. He brings the weird stuff, and it's even hard to say. Like his matchup is weird because it's bad in that he loses to Regirock, and that's not something you see a lot. Like I'm ended up being Drain Punch Regirock, which was huge because it was facing an Aurorus and a Drampa and a Lycanroc. Drain Punch Toxic, like that made the matchup even worse. But like that, it was like literally the fact that he lost to Regirock is what was the biggest issue with the game. And that's
Yeah,
weird. You don't
I
see
mean,
teams losing to Regirock, you know?
Robert Alpha with these styles of teams, weird teams, unproven styles of teams, they tend to have weird weaknesses, and I would say that his team is much weirder than the next, if you know what I mean. Like, and Regirock here, Regirock tends to actually play better versus the weirder styles of team because it's naturally bulky on both sides and it doesn't hit for weak. Like, it's not ridiculously weak. So it walls a lot of the Pokemon that you wouldn't expect it to wall, for example. It's very hard to take down in that sense. So when it comes up versus a team that doesn't really have a way of hitting it super effectively, it just feasts. Like, nothing on his team would want to run it.
And the thing is, like,
given that it also had Drain Punch as well, like...
Yeah, sorry, I thought you were down there. But yeah, the thing is also, Robert Alphonse did have a Quagsire, but the problem is, A, you don't want your Quagsire getting toxic, and B, Quagsire is a free switch-in for Articuno and Lurantis. Especially the latter, Lurantis, which, like, Robert Alphonse really cannot switch into safely if it just hits the superpower button. Even Leaf Storm, like, because Dramp is not really going to want to come in, so... Yeah, exactly. I don't know what more Robert Alphonse could have done, because, like, he had some strong threats, and then they were all checked by Persian. It's almost like, you remember when I brought that team versus Katut, and Persian just won? It's almost like the same thing there. Like, he had the Sucker Lycanroc and the Sub-Nasty Simi and the Scarf Auroras, and it's all like, well, we're too slow for Persian, so oops. Persian's, like, real good right now. In fact, I don't think we've even discussed this before, but next VR update, it might need to go to, like, A+ or something, because holy hell, this mon's speed just makes it ridiculous.
Yeah, it's very nice. I think just fast Pokemon in general.
What is it right now? Oh, it's A-. Well, it's definitely going to A rank. For fucking sure.
I think A rank at the least it's worth it there. Mainly also because, like, the amount of Hitmonchan you see it sort of, like, tapered off, and just in general, things that are faster than it that can hit it are just, you know, very little. So, yeah, because the meta has shifted now to a more slower. I guess that's going to happen when your biggest wall breaker and sweeper leaves. But yeah, it's an interesting Pokemon. I think it's well worthy of a rise. Yeah, and I don't rate per se the team that I'm abroad. It's a bit too slow for my taste, but I mean, it did a job. Like, I guess he sort of doubled down on an Alphonse bringing, like, okay, I have Lurantis for the bulky stool matchup, and I have Persian for the fast matchup. I'm ready.
Yeah, I don't really think, like, most of the time I'll be like, yeah, this team is too slow. Like, I'm a huge person on that, but I think I don't really think this team is too slow, just because it's really focused around, like, 5 fat mons that are, like, specifically designed to wall stuff, and then, like, our fastest strong mon in the game of. Actually, we don't know if it was NP Persian, so it might not have been, but it kind of looked like it. So I really don't know that I would call his team too slow at all. It looks like... I could see it losing a matchup against a bulky team that wasn't specifically, like, really weak to Articuno or Lurantis, just by virtue of, like, getting outstalled and slowly getting chipped, or, like, you got to play real well around a Stoutland or something so that your Regirock isn't getting chipped away and then Stoutland gets Healing Wished or something, but... Overall, I actually didn't mind Imus' team. It doesn't seem, like, amazing. I'm not going crazy over it, but I think it was fine. Certainly much better than last week. He brought, like, the idiot screens offense. So
yeah, it's an improvement for that 100%. So yeah. And
this is Robert Alphonse's first loss too. So that's not a bad thing.
When you bring teams like this, I mean, you're asking for it at this point. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but he has gotten away with it before.
Yeah, he will. And he will continue to do it as well, so fuck it at this point, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, next game. Ryza versus Drud. Ryza did play Serene Grace earlier in the week, but that game was nullified. We're not going to touch that because, you know, that game ain't real.
Yeah, it's just a bit stupid.
I continue to really like Ryza's teams. It's not like it's actually it's not crazy. Just like Imus team, it's not crazy, but it looks just real fun. He's got, like, the offensive Z move Frostlass, and he's got some, you know, spikes, and he's got some Gastrodon, he's got some Kangaskhan thrown in. It's like, hell yeah, that seems fun. And honestly, like, Drud didn't have a terrible matchup. He caught the Gastro with an HB Grass Lure. He played pretty well overall. Made some quite, like, solid predicts. Caught a good Volt Switch on Gastro switching out, caught a good Stone Edge, but I think the Frostlass really surprised him very early in the game, caught him off guard, and he needed Lilligant to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lilligant was 100% his win con. I was going to say that Ryza's team, looking at preview, I was thinking, shit, this Lilligant is about to go ham, but the problem is Ryza was very good this game at just not making sure that it doesn't get two quiver dances up at all costs.
Yeah,
so he was
and
very good at maintaining that. And,
not just that, but it also not being HP Fire was like a huge decider here.
Yeah, 100%. Like if it was like a quiver dance sleep powered HP Fire, I think this game would have like an easy victory for Drud, because then he could have used it to pressure as well. So he could have like harded on the Gastrodons, broken the team several times over, and then healing wished it later with the Mesprit for the final like assault, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But he never ended up needing to be in that scenario because he wasn't HP Fire. So I think Ryza just played it well with the Primate. I mean, he had to win a speed tie, which is less than ideal. But
he didn't need. He could have won without the speed tie. It just would have devolved into some like close 50-50s and stuff. Like I do think both players played well. I think the big thing was if Drud was HP Fire, Ryza played well, and it just wouldn't have mattered because Drud would have just had like a stronger matchup here. But Ryza caught him early with the Frostlass. Then Drud kind of played well, and then they were both kind of just going back and forth. But I guess like that's the huge difference between this game and the Shane Ghoul Rexus game, which is where both players were playing well, but the Lilligant was the right set, and that's definitely a little scary. Just with how good Lilligant is at the moment, definitely kind of makes you think like, look at these two games. Lilligant had the right set. This is what happens. In the offense versus offense matchup, when the Lilligant can go ham versus when it can't go ham. Speaking versus ham, if that's all we got on that game, the next game has everyone's favorite ham-based username, ham.
Ham. Yeah, my guy, ham.
So HamX4 versus Katut, and that's actually how I mentally pronounce that name now. This was also, spoilers, not just the first loss for Robert Alphonse, but I think this was the first loss for Katut too, right?
I think so, yeah. I think you're right.
Pretty sure Katut bringing another... This is actually like one of his more standard teams, and it's still triple ice with Snow Warning Frostlass, but like that's not that crazy comparatively, to be honest. Oh, and it had a Life Orb Hitmonchan. That was interesting. It was like a Spikes, Hail balance. It was Protect Quagsire, which is like Toxic Protect, which actually seems dope. Not gonna lie, like Protect is just good right now. Meanwhile, Ham's bring this like kind of more standard, kind of weird looking Alolan Dugtrio plus Dodrio offense, kind of controlling the speed matchup here. And I think the critical thing was like Katut couldn't really switch into Ham's threats very well. Especially like Ham was able to pressure the Quagsire very early, so it like needed to get removed, and Katut couldn't really like bring the offense back. Like he just wasn't scary enough. That's kind of where I see how this game went.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I question some of Katut's plays. So, for example, when the Hitmonchan was in, he just sort of sacked the Alola Slash. Didn't really consider the opportunity maybe to switch out.
Yeah, he might have been predicting a double or not a Mach Punch or something. That wouldn't be the craziest prediction, but at the same time, like catching the Mach definitely cost him.
Yeah, I think that was not the dagger, because he could have won again if he was just a standard Hitmonchan, but the Life Orb Hitmonchan really screwed him over, first for the Ice Beam roll, and then secondly for the
extra chip. Yeah, I mean, this game came down to the wire. The Hitmonchan died to Life Orb recoil, while Ham had one Mon in the back, but that one Mon would have died to Mach Punch if Hitmonchan hadn't killed itself. So
like any Mach Punch, a zero attack Mach Punch, it was at 4% when it came in after rocks. So if he was literally any set apart from Life Orb, he won that game.
Yeah.
Even if like Robert Alphonse agility set, he would have outsped the Mesprit. Like it's that set really cost him. I think it's quite janky in that regard. Like his team is quite a bit weird in that way. So
yeah, and honestly, I was impressed by like Ham never really seemed thrown by the weird nature of the team and like the Protect Quagsire and the Life Orb Hitmonchan and Ham kind of just stayed kind of solid throughout, and I can't point to any like amazing huge plays he made, but nor can I point to any
He played efficiently.
major misplays or anything. Yeah, efficiently is probably the best way to describe it. He just hit the basic buttons he needed to have a fairly solid win.
Honestly, I think with Keita, I think this is this sort of the person that he's probably weakest to. He's probably got a good idea, and he knows that the top people in PU, they have this certain ideology when it comes to the metagame. So when I come and approach Keita, it's not going to be like Ham's going to come and approach Keita. Ham's just trying to, build a team that's as good as possible.
He's going to go
I'm
Ham.
trying to have I'm trying to like make some intricacies and whatever to give me a bit of an edge, for example. Or if Teddy was building for him, he'd try and do something a little bit clever. Or if you were trying to build for him, you'd do maybe.
Yeah, but like you can't necessarily prep for Ham, and in this case, it didn't work out. Although that's definitely not always been the case. Yeah, I agree.
I think that's all that.
So do we want to move? Do we want to move from Ham to Sam? Sorry if I'm moving this a little fast, guys. Hajad was an hour late, so I need to get. I'm trying to run through this. Yeah, this game was just kind of silly. Sam I Am versus Manny, and they both also brought offense, very offense dominant week. This game was kind of silly. Like Sam, he kind of just like won the game with Scarf Mesprit, because Manny sacked his Absol turn 1, and without that Absol, his only Scarf Mesprit check was his defensive Mesprit, and Sam just didn't fuck up, and that was kind of it. Manny's team.
That was that.
There are a lot of like offenses that were brought this week. Lots of Frostlass, lots of like weird teams with Mons you don't necessarily see a ton of. Most of them kind of managed to find the line between like offensive and managing to keep a handle on most threats. Manny kind of circled into that's Mesprit week. That's even Skuntank week, to be honest. Like kind of didn't manage to pull it off entirely.
Yeah.
Not a huge fan of what he ended up bringing, and I think he's actually subbed out next week too. I don't know if it's because of this game, but I was not impressed.
Yeah, I was quite disappointed with this game, honestly, because I feel like, Manny's process might have been, when I was looking at his team, I was thinking, this is a weird team. What's wrong with it? So I asked my question, and I said to myself, wow, it's literally weak to absolutely everything. His physically defensive check is Mesprit at all costs, and especially defensive check is Hitmonchan at all costs. So it's like that's his defensive core.
Yeah, like, every Mon is going to do some work to him. Like if you look at Sam's team, none of his Mons have an especially bad matchup or could be considered useless. Like the worst is maybe I couldn't even say. Like maybe if Oricorio's not Rev Dance and you consider it. No, because even if it's checked by Omastar, it's not much. Like, no, okay. Every Mon on his team. I guess Lilligant is the worst off just because there's kind of offensive checks. But no, that's not even fair.
Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, no, okay. So every Mon on Sam's team was good here. And, it was just kind of not great.
Yeah, I mean, turn 1 obviously decided the game. Like, you can't afford to get Z Hurricane there.
You need to be perfect in this kind of matchup, and no Absol to check the Scarf Mesprit. That's just it.
Yeah, the only way that I saw Manny win this game is if he got his rocks up, got his spikes up, and then managed to finesse the Lantern to get trapped potentially by the Absol, or like weaken it with the Omastar after a smash, and then win with Simisear in the late game. That was his only way out, I think. Given that he played around in Aurorus a little bit, but yeah, that was his way of winning, and he didn't really like do anything with his Mons. Like
there was nowhere to go. Speaking, is there even more to say on this? I feel like you're just gonna
not really.
No, you're just gonna say the same thing. Trust me. I was gonna just segue out. Speaking of nowhere to really go. But for an entirely different reason. We had Tasker versus Lycans, which was definitely ended prematurely with just like a huge full para. This game might not be linked in replays because they forgot to save the replay. I have it because TJ had a download link, but downloading replays is funky, so I don't know if that's even get linked. Basically, Tasker brought like some fat Lurantis stuff, and Lycans brought some fat Drampa stuff, and Drampa as a wall breaker is really terrifying. And Tasker had an opportunity to kill it, and he got fully paralyzed. And after that point, like he was just lost. There was just no chance.
Yeah.
It would have been a close game otherwise, I think. And then that just absolutely, like, I don't think there was any coming back from that. And that was turn 16, which is pretty early for like this fat matchup.
No. It's just what Drampire does at this point in the meta, because now Eggy is gone. Drampire has now solidified it as the main special breaker. Well, I don't want to say the main special breaker. I mean like the main big breaker. Like I don't know how to explain it really, but it's now like it's taken up the Specs Eggy mantelpiece, where it's a breaker that's just really strong.
Yeah, and we saw a surprising amount of Drampa, like because people were like, well, I need something without Specs Eggy. That was 3 Drampas this week in total, I think. We saw Robert Alphonse bring it. We saw Lycans bring it, which would have been a Teddy/Dibs team, and then LST brought it, which we haven't got to yet. So
yeah. With Drampire, I feel like people are starting to realize that it's actually got decent defensive utility. Like we were speaking to Robert Alphonse in the PU Discord after he did it this game, and obviously after he'd lost, but we were speaking about it, and it's surprising how much defensive utility it has when it has Sap Zipper. Because being a really, like, it's impossible for HP Fire Lilligant to break a Spadef Dramper with Sap Zipper, or any Dramper for that matter with Sap Zipper.
Yeah.
So you can immediately remove that from the list of possibilities that can beat your team. Dramper in general, like, it's really hard to switch into. Like, fire plus dragon coverage is nothing to wince at or like be scared. Like, not like really hard to switch into.
Yeah, and for sure, I think like if it didn't wall Lilligant, we'd see a lot less of it. But Lilligant being the threat that we were just talking about, like it just beating Lilligant makes it so much more desirable. Holy shit! Like,
yeah.
Otherwise, I don't think we'd be seeing nearly as much Drampa. But yeah.
Yeah, Jellison as well. Like it has a nice matchup versus Jellison.
Okay, that's too much. That's too much on Drampa. We're moving on. No more Drampa.
Okay.
Last 2 games were both of our team's games. Both teams had Jad built. First one being Snaga versus TJ. This one was a heartbreaker. They both, again, double offense. TJ bringing more Omastar, more Lilligant, more Pom Pom, just like more of the offensive stuff we've seen. And Snaga also having like a Primeape and a Pom Pom and a Sandslash, kind of a dual matchup thing. The really kind of critical thing here, very early, like Snaga, I think plays the early game quite nicely. Like his Frostlass gets caught by his Stone Edge, and he doesn't really let that bother him. Makes some good predictions. Gets the Sandslash burned, gets up a spike. Was doing really well, and kind of put TJ in a very scary position. And then TJ kind of gets into a place where Snaga's Scarf Primeape was going to win the game, and then Snaga just sacked it and choked. I'll just get to it. It was unfortunate. After the game, he was like, "Yeah, sorry guys, I fucked up." It was really interesting too. Like TJ used Final Gambit with his Primeape to chip away at Snaga's Girder, which was weird because Girder wasn't walling anything, but like I guess it's better than close combat. But he was sacking the Primeape, which could have like speed tied Snaga's Primeape. And the Oricorio Pom Pom then comes in and gets itself weakened by Lantern, and tries and gets and dies trying to switch into Scarf Primeape. And all TJ has for the Scarf Primeape is a Raichu Alola at 76% with a spike up, so it can't really come in that much. And Snaga like can freely switch into the Scarf Raichu with either his Lantern or his Spadef Alola Slash. Neither one is like super needed here. So it definitely looked like this was just like a textbook like Scarf Primeape doing a win, because all TJ has is a weakened Alola Chew and a Lilligant and an Omastar. And then he just left Primeape in on the Raichu. And
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, I guess when you don't play the meta as much as we do, someone's taking a different picture. Like, maybe he was thinking, I don't want to activate the weak armor or whatever on the armor star, or I don't want to give Lilligant free setup with a close combat. You don't know sometimes. Sometimes you just have a brain fart and you just click a button, like, oh, this will do. Like, oh, I have things. But
Actually, I want to see, does Lilligan die after one spike? That'd be a pretty cool calc. I genuinely don't know. I forgot all primate calcs because nobody used it, and now it's back in the meta again because Toad was gone.
CC, but I think. Well,
18.8% chance of Oko after one layer spike, so that's not there. So that might have been a thought, but yeah, ultimately definitely sad for us because without that win we ended up tying the week. But otherwise, I think there were just some cool teams. TJ going hard on like more TJ offense, and I think that looks like where the meta is trending, so that's pretty solid. And then anything you wanted to say about the team you made for Snaga?
The team I made for Snagger was exactly for that style of TJ team, and he just misplayed it. Like, when it came down to that, that's all that can be said. Like, he wasn't at a matchup deficit, and he wasn't at a matchup advantage either. Like, as much as I would have liked to put all the blame on Snagger, like, he wasn't at a matchup advantage in the first place. He had to play well to get into that position in the first place to really he choked, yes, but he misplayed. Well, he played well in the early game to get himself in a position where he had to choke. So
yeah,
so with is keeping your cool. Sometimes you just don't. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that puts TJ at 4-0. I think. Did he lose?
4-0?
I don't think.
4-0? Fuck.
I don't know. I don't think he's lost. Maybe he has.
I think he must have. I don't know. It's TJ, bro.
He just must have. No, I think he's 4-0. I don't know. Anyway, with that loss, that put our team to 3-4, with the last game being the other PU game of LST versus Tony, and there was a lot riding on this game, and it was just absolute slaughter. Tony brings like a really fat team with Natu trying to support Articuno, and LST just like was not even remotely threatened by the team. He brought Combine Drampa, which immediately starts just wall breaking the shit. But then Tony gets his Ferium Z Mesprit lure to kill the Drampa. It's like, okay, maybe Tony's still in this. Then LST reveals the Combine Mesprit that Oko is the Natu trying to come in. So he's now going to get rocks up too. And from that point, all he had to do was basically just like outlast Tony's team because his defensive core was broken. He still has the Combine Mesprit in the back. Hijad's blowing into his microphone. Like, it was just gross. And he still had
my microphone in the game as well.
He still had a Scarfalola slash, which just easily cleaned up the game. Like, I just don't like Tony's team. Natu's garbage right now. And it just wasn't a well-supported Articuno. There wasn't a lot of, like, it was just a weird kind of defensive core, and the breaker was supposed to be Fairy and Mesprit. Like, I don't know. I don't know what was supposed to happen, but LST was competent, and that was all that he needed to be.
Yeah, I mean, here's the problem is that fundamentally at matchup, you needed the Natu to do something rather than nothing, and the Natu did absolutely nothing.
It was also Stealth Rock offensive Lycanroc, which is like, Natu's not stopping that. Hello? And Scarf Kabutops also like did not spin very well versus LST's team at all. There's a ghost, so Scarf Rapid Spin is a risk, and like it doesn't really threaten anything out.
Gastro,
yeah, and there's a Gastrodon to free switch in, but even beyond that, it just wasn't. There was nowhere to go.
And then,
what were you gonna do?
Fundamentally, at the matchup, there's a Rocks Lycanroc and a Spikes Frostlass versus a Natu and a Scarf Kabu. There's no way you win that.
Yeah, no, it's just not happening. Tony's, he's still in next week, so we'll see if he can pull out something better. I feel like this is a team Tony built and not TJ. I also feel like TJ should not have let him bring that. Next week, getting into those, we have TJ versus Fagtron, Robert Alphonse, and Tony versus Sam I Am. And Sam I Am definitely feels like the kind of player that if Tony brings a team like that again, it's going to go real bad. So
listen,
we'll need to see something better.
As much as I as much as I like lambasted Sam for using the same styles of the team, if he brings the same style of team like as he usually does versus Tony, I wouldn't be like angry at him in any way, because in my opinion, TJ's team hasn't shown really any team building diversity. Like TJ's brought the same thing basically 4 weeks in a row.
Yeah,
and Tony's brought
they have
Tony teams for 4 weeks in a row as well. Like
didn't our team beat TJ? We've already played TJ's team. Didn't we beat him so he wouldn't be?
We played them this week.
Oh no, Kush versus TJ, and then Kush.
Kush had to not play, but
no, that wasn't this. That wasn't this week, was it?
Yeah, it was this week. It was. This is the week that we just did.
Oh yeah, we just played. I'm so stupid. Never mind.
We literally just analyzed.
We literally just. Yep, that was just. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, the other games we have Shane Gould versus Pills and Lycans versus Ima, which Shane Gould Lycans still the Snackers core. Snackers had gone like 0 everything in PU, but they won both their games this week, so maybe they're coming back. And then for the Guardians, Ima still starting. Pills finally getting a starting spot over whoever they had this week. I don't remember. Like the Valid Guardians are the ones that started with Lax and Passion. Then they moved on to Manny was the one, but Manny's out now. Pills is in. Pills has had some good seasonal runs. He's had some strong PU tours. We see him pretty high in seasonal. Like he's respectable, but Shane Gould with the Teddy Dibs building help is pretty terrifying. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, Shane's a beast. Well, Shane's a beast like playing wise because he's very calm. He doesn't really make mistakes. So if you give him like a matchup where it's workable, he'll do some business. So I fully expect him to beat Pills. But Pills is a good player, so he'll like if there's any like flaws there, like Pills will win.
For sure. For our team's part, we have Kush versus Katut and LST versus Ziri. I think those are just going to be
great! I have to build for Katut.
Fun match. Oh yeah, I have to help you, but yeah, those are just going to be some interesting matchups. Katut and Ziri doing pretty good so far this tour.
I'm gonna figure Katut out.
But also facing a pretty scary core, if I don't say so myself. And then finally, we have Fossils versus Fire Dogs. We have Ham still in versus Rexus, and 49 versus Tasker. 49 making his PU starting debut. Fossil's not doing so well. They started with Evagero, Ryza, and PU. Both of them are now not playing PU. We ranked them number 1, thinking that they would get it together. They did not get together. Evagero is actually needing to start Monotype now with 49 starting PU. That's where you know it's weird. 49 Tasker, the game probably won't happen. But if it does, I think it'll be pretty hype.
Yeah, I mean, Tasker isn't doing too well. But 49 hasn't played PU ever.
No, he's actually
5 SPLs.
He's played PUPLs.
He's played PUPLs, but when we say played, we put it in quotation marks. Because every time he starts, he gets subbed out. So
yeah, but that's like every tour he plays. That's not really fair. So those are the matchups. Before we go into everyone's favorite gimmick segment, we actually got a question in the comments. We answer those.
Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah, we answer those. By the way, if people didn't realize, hang on, let me scroll back to.
Like, comment, and subscribe. Like I said.
Oh, I PM'd you. Reminder that we got a question to answer next time, but I didn't actually write down what the question is, so I'm gonna have to go back to the comments. Fuck.
Share the comments.
This will only be 2 seconds, but some audio will probably start playing from YouTube.
Yeah, I'm just looking for my gimmick set. Okay, I found it.
Okay, I got the comment. Do you guys think Rain now gets better since Eggy's gone? So will it see more viability in tour play? Rain is mildly better, yes, but I think it has like all the same issues in practice. Rain is just inconsistent and matchup based. In tour play, you tend to see more of the stuff that beats Rain. On ladder, you tend to see less of the stuff that beats Rain. That's why it's good on ladder, or that's why it's better on ladder. But I don't think Rain's going to make a huge comeback because again, it is a risk to say I am taking this matchup risk. We could definitely see more of that. Katut makes it look easy, but you know it's still something that people really have to pull the trigger on. And whether Rain sees more use is if they pull the trigger on it or not.
Yeah. To answer the question, I guess Rain does not get better. No, it's
Well, I think it does benefit just from the fact that like Alolan Eggy really was an annoying matchup. Not too bad, like not impossible by any stretch of imagination, but it was a check that could be annoying.
Yeah, I guess potentially like if you trick roomed, it was scary. Like if somehow Eggy managed to trick room on the Mesprit, for example, it would put in work. But honestly, from an offensive standpoint, Rain shouldn't let Eggy get that in the first place, if you know what I mean.
I don't think it's impossible, especially since you got the Z move, which makes encoring it a little scary.
Yeah, I mean...
You know, it can definitely take a hit from Kabutops. I don't know. It wasn't the hugest threat, but it's not nothing that Eggy's gone, and I don't think Eggy being gone directly benefits anything that, like, is even scarier to Rain than Eggy was, so... You know...
Yeah. You needed something like Aurorus to really benefit Rain, or like Aurorus and Abomasnow. If both of those left, Rain would be really good. But,
yeah, obviously that would be huge for Rain, but it's not. Yeah. But you know what is huge for Rain? Actually, I don't know if it was. I was going to say second. You know what is huge for Rain? Your next.
Nice segue.
Yeah, but I don't know if it is. You know what may or may not be huge for Rain? The gimmick that Hijad is going to bring you all with Hijad's gimmick corner. Take it away.
I have gimmicks that you might like.
One gimmick. It's so late.
So my gimmick this week is something that LST showcased to a minor degree in his match versus
Tony. Was this the Combine Shadow Ball Mesprit?
No, that's actually quite a standard set, in my opinion. I think that's like the
Nobody runs Shadow Ball. Hello, I was surprised when we pulled it out. Okay, then what is the set?
I just put Shadow Ball on it. Just say fuck it, you know. It hits a Mesprit. But yeah, the other set that was quite interesting, which didn't really get shown because LSD won the game anyway. But it was actually Stealth Rock SD Lycanroc.
Oh yeah, LST's been using a good amount of that. So have you. I think it's pretty neat.
Yeah, I think the cool thing about it is that in PU we don't have fast rockers. We don't have any. So, and also Lycanroc, it tends to have a few switch-ins per game. Like, usually you'll see a Girder that's check it, or a Gastro, or a Mudsdale, something along those lines in a balanced matchup. So, in my opinion, if we manage to get, or make sure that it was useful pre-weakening of Mudsdale, for example, you can set up Stealth Rock, the Mudsdale gets baited in, you can then make like a hard double into Frostlass or Drampire, for example, and pressure it immediately. It gives Lycanroc a bit more usage than if there was a Poliwrath there. If the Poliwrath's there, Lycanroc can't do anything.
Lycanroc gets just bodied. Like, offensively, sometimes they'll just have, like, worthless matchups. And previously got around that by being like, well, I'll just set up with my Lycanroc, and if you kill it with your counter lets my Eggy set up or something. But Rocks is another way to make it useful. I think it is notable that, like, most of the Pokemon it wants to bait in are not removers or especially scary setup sweepers, with the exception of Girder. So you're probably going to be able to force something that like isn't removing hazards. And if they want to remove hazards because they have something like Articuno or Dodrio or whatever, they got to figure that out. And then also, like, our other like fast rocker is Alolan Dugtrio. Neither of them are exactly like bulky. But Lycanroc is definitely a little better at switching into birds and still having a bit of health left, because you don't really have to preserve health. Like, if you take 40 from a Hurricane, that's fine for this set.
Yeah, I mean, because the thing is that like I've only seen that fast trio set once, and that was from like somebody who keeps playing Room Tours. I think his name is like Breakfast Biscuit or something.
Breakfast Biscuit.
Yeah, he uses something like that. I don't know. And he uses like Roxalode and Dougie.
That might be his name, and there's nothing wrong with that username, but just the way you said it was so, like, I think his name might be Breakfast Biscuit or something. Like, yeah, Jen, we get it. You're British, okay?
I mean, that's his name. What do you want me to say? Like,
it just sounded like, it just sounded so British. Like, if I said it, I think his name might be like Hamburger or something.
See if he's online. No, he's not online. But yeah, he uses fast rocks alone and Dougie, and I think that's a cool set as well. But I feel like that's more useless. I don't know. Like, Dougie doesn't do as much damage.
You're so mean.
Alone Ducky just doesn't do damage. Like, it's just something that it doesn't do. And I feel like Subtoxic, you can use its typing a bit more and it's a bit better that way. But
for
this
sure.
set, like dropping Drill Run now that Toge is left. I mean, is there any like disadvantage to it? Like, you can just sort of stab Stealth Rock on instead of the filler, and then you have like a more useful Lycanroc. And using that is a bit more. It frees up Mesprit to do that Calm Mind roll, which I still think is scary. Like, people don't prep for Calm Mind Mesprit now, so it's like, I have Lantern. Oh, I guess I'll be fine versus Mesprit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
Mesprit is weirdly like not handled. We actually saw Scarf Mesprit being devastating in multiple exhibition matchups. So
yeah, it's weird.
it's definitely good to handle. We've just honestly, partially, we've seen less Skunk. Because Skunk has started to cycle back to a little bit being a little abusable. You know, you got like your weak armor Omastars, you got your Lilligants that are sleep powdering it and just setting up regardless of Skunk being like a theoretical check. It's cycling a little bit out of the meta. I still think its S rank is just not seen quite so much.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I always defend Skuntank with is that offensively, it's always going to trade 1-for-1 in basically every matchup.
Yeah, but
Like,
defensively, obviously, it's much better. And don't forget, even if it's trading offensively, that's before you trade defensively with your helmet plus aftermath. Because, God, that shit's dumb sometimes. Well. All right.
Like, if it's a fast attacker, you suck.
No, shut up. We're wrapping this shit up. I'm shutting it down. You don't get to complain. You were an hour late. You don't get to complain when I'm doing it. All right.
Okay.
No, I mean that's pretty much it anyway. This has been 40 minutes of analyzing exhibition games. I think that's plenty.
Yeah, were there any other questions that needed to be asked, or is that the only one?
No, there were a couple other comments, but no real questions. Guys, if you want us to answer questions, we'll totally do that. I know we're going to get questions that aren't serious now, just random joke questions like, haha, they said they'd answer it. No, we probably won't touch those. Okay, Hijad's blowing into his mic. That means it's time to go. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next week with more exhibition analysis. Analysis.